So I know it has been quite some time, ladies and gentlemen, since you've seen me on your screens talking about the lovely, fantastic, great times we're in. Did you miss me? Because I absolutely miss you guys. And let's be honest, today is a very unfortunate day for the woke liberals out there who want to continue to push this insanity, madness onto everybody, because I'm back. And as you can also see, it is very unfortunate for Maine's woke Governor Janet Mills, because my very first video will be talking about the situation going on over there with women's sports. Recently, as I'm sure all of you know, Maine has been refusing to comply with Trump's executive order keeping men out of women's sports because they're so stunning, brave, progressive, but it has led to a lot of controversy. We got a face-off between Trump and Janet Mills. People in Maine have been protesting over its woke policies, so the Trump administration gave Maine 10 days to comply with the executive order, and surprise, surprise, because Democrats seem to think they know better. They seem to think that men competing in women's sports is perfectly normal. They seem to think that living in the land of delusion is progressive. Maine said no. Well, not the people of Maine, just the insane woke activists in charge. This is the issue they're taking such a strong stance on: men competing in women's sports. Left is right, up is down, and common sense clearly is extremely hard to find. But because of this, the Trump administration has taken the next step, and I'll be getting into that in just a second. But before I do, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you could make sure to leave a like rating, as it really helps out the video. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video, and let's get into it. So as you guys can see here, we have an article by Fox News that goes on to say Trump administration refers Maine's non-compliance with Title IX to the DOJ amid fight over trans athletes. You know, the fact it's almost April and I'm still sat here talking about this issue is insane. I think we all thought at this point we would have moved past this, but clearly, absolutely not. This is the issue that Democrats, woke activists want to stand strong on. And they wonder why they lost the election. It's right in front of them, but they got Stevie Wonder syndrome. Wait, what? No, we can't do that. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights on Friday said it referred Maine's non-compliance with Title IX rules to the Justice Department for enforcement. Maine has continued to defy President Donald Trump's executive order to ban trans athletes from women's and girls' sports. These people are ridiculous. Do you know how simple this is? Like, honestly, let's get down to this one. All you have to do is just keep boys out of girls' sports, men out of women's sports. That's it. And you would avoid all of this. But no, the HHS gave the state 10 days to correct its policies through a signed agreement or risk referral to the Justice Department. But here we are. They don't want to comply. Today, OCR referred Maine's non-compliance with Title IX to the Justice Department for enforcement in court for continuing to unlawfully allow males to compete against females, the department announced in a post on X. The HHS will continue to protect women's sports and keep the promises of Title IX for America's women and girls. Now, remember in that face-off we got between Janet Mills and Trump, she actually said to him, "I'll see you in court."
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Yeah, well, she probably didn't think that one through, and here we are with this. Fox News Digital reached out to Maine Governor Janet Mills' office and Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey's office for comment. The Maine School Administrative District 51, home to Greeley High School, where a transgender athlete incited national controversy after winning a girls' pole vault competition in February, said Thursday it was not complying and will instead continue to follow state law and the Maine Human Rights Act. Oh man, it's only my first video back and these people are going to push me to say something that's going to get the video taken down. Anyway, imagine your Human Rights Act protecting this sort of issue, protecting men competing in women's... Yeah. Mars is looking pretty good right now. The Maine Principals Association said in a statement it is also bound by the law, including the Maine Human Rights Act, which our participation policy reflects. Yeah, and I'm sure the people of Maine are very happy about this. Absolutely not. The situation involving the trans athlete at Greeley High School attracted national attention after Maine Republican State Representative Laurel Libby identified the athlete by name with a photograph in a social media post. Libby was later censured by the Maine legislature and has since filed a lawsuit to have it overturned. The fact that she was put in that position just because she spoke out about this issue just shows how intense all of this is, and just shows how desperately the Democrats don't want people speaking about this in the way it should be spoken about. Trump signed the No Men in Women's Sports executive order in early February, which led to multiple athletics associations complying with it and a handful thumbing their nose at the order because they're so stunning, so brave, progressive. The issue with the state of Maine came to a head at a meeting of the National Governors Association. Trump threatened to cut federal funding to the state for not banning biological males from girls and women's sports. The next day, Mills's office responded with a statement threatening legal action against the Trump administration if it did withhold federal funding from the state. Just comply. It is so simple. Then Trump and Mills verbally sparred in a widely publicized argument at the White House during a bipartisan meeting of governors. Are you not going to comply with that? Trump asked Mills. Since then, multiple protests against Mills have been held outside the state capitol, and the Maine university system has cooperated with the Trump administration to ensure no trans athletes compete in women's sports after a temporary funding pause. The OCR announced last week it found the Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and Greeley High School in violation of Title IX for continuing to enable trans inclusion in girls' sports. OCR Acting Director Anthony Archibald previously provided a statement to Fox News Digital warning of potential consequences for continued defiance of the executive order. What the HHS is asking of the Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and Greeley High School is simple: protect female athletes' rights. It is so simple. It really is. But as you've heard me say, simple solutions that way are lovely, stunning, and brave society. Oh wait, no, let's go that way. Girls deserve girls-only sports without male competitors. Completely agree. And if Maine won't come to the table to voluntarily comply with Title IX, HHS will enforce Title IX to the fullest extent permitted by the law, Archibald said. This is what happens, right, when a side just wants to stand with delusion, insanity, craziness. And they will stand with it, no matter what. They're now going to face the consequences, as they should. That we should not be in a time, right? And I don't have to sit here and say this because you hear it so often. You've heard me say it many times, but we should not be in a time where men are competing in women's sports just because they say they identify as women. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. The fact that we are in this situation where a biological male, which they are, can go into a women's sport and dominate just off them saying, oh yeah, by the way, today I'm identifying as a woman, is insane. And we also have the argument going around, as we always do, the woke activists are saying, oh, this isn't really an issue. There's barely any trans athletes competing in women's sports. Guess what? There shouldn't be one. That simple. But there we have it. Ladies and gentlemen, after Maine refusing to comply with Trump's executive order, they are now taking the next steps. I can guarantee you, people like Janet Mills probably thought this would never go this far. They probably thought they'd get their way, as they have done for so long, but I've been saying, as everybody else has been saying, the Trump administration ain't playing around. This is a big issue, a very important issue to a lot of people, not only for women and girls who are competing in their sports, but for reality, truth, common sense. And because people saw Trump saying, hey, look, we're going to put this to an end, they voted for him. And yet the Democrats, the politicians anyway, still can't come to the terms with the fact that people are tired of this. 80% of Americans do not want trans athletes in girls' sports. What are they doing? But I want to hear your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? Leave your comments down below. If you have enjoyed, once again, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Share this video, and I gotta tell you, man, it feels so good to be back. Look forward to videos every single day. There is a lot to talk about. I've missed out on a lot, and I'm very excited about this. But until next time, it has been your host, JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.